KWT slaying.
What if the truth was never lost, only buried? For centuries, historians, scholars, and even colonial records have confirmed what many tried to silence. The original Israelites were a black people scattered across continents but never erased. Their skin was dark, their customs ancient, and their covenant with Yah eternal. This journey uncovers how the Spanish and Portuguese Jews, described as dark-skinned, Semitic, shared one bloodline. Chased by the Inquisition, many fled to Portugal, then beyond, preserving their heritage across borders. But the story doesn't end in Iberia. Across from West Africa, black Jews built synagogues, kept Torah, and passed down the laws of Moses. The Limba in southern Africa, the Igbo in Nigeria, the Beta Israel in Ethiopia, tribes across the continent boldly declare, "We are the children of Israel." These aren't isolated claims. These are voices rising from the dust, connected by oral histories, Torah traditions, and the unbroken rhythm of their identity. No such legacy exists among European Jews. No centuries of tribal witness, no matching traditions, no trace of ancient covenant keeping. Maps, art, and archaeology tell the same story. The Israelites were scattered, enslaved, and displaced, but never lost. The world always knew who they were. Their presence was visible, their customs alive, their story intact. This book doesn't speculate. It confirms the Israelites were black, bound by blood, culture, and covenant to the Most High. This is not just history, it's restoration. The truth was never destroyed, only buried beneath centuries of deception. Get your copy of They Always Knew We Were Israelites today, available now on Amazon.com.
Salama family, salama, how y'all doing today? Hope you're blessed and highly favored. So, how y'all doing today? Y'all doing good? I hope y'all doing good, because this is one of those teachings that you really have to pay attention to and think about what I am saying and look at the nuances, right? So you're going to have to pay attention. A lot of people have difficulty paying attention, right, to the nuances, right? They can get that, high level. But I always later on, I get somebody who miss the nuances. So before I get started, give me a 1 if I sound okay. Give me a 2 if I don't. Okay, look like everything is fine. So, how many of you all ever heard when Israelites are talking about who we are, that it has nothing to do with race? Say yes if you've heard that before. It has nothing to do with race. Give me no if you haven't heard that before. It has nothing to do with race. Now, race is a relatively modern construct, but based upon how we use the terminology today, right? They call it race, right? We call it ethnic group. We call it a bloodline. We call it a heritage. And so I find it very interesting because, you know, every now and then I'll be listening to people and surfing and hearing some Gentile who comes up with the bright idea that we're the people. Okay. I'm like, okay, so he gets we the people. Then you listen a little closer. And what do you hear? Come on, family. Before I get started, y'all can guess. You listen a little closer because they recognize we the people. But what do they say? What do they say? I'll wait. I know y'all know because we've dealt with it before, right? We dealt with it before, right? They either say it directly or they say it indirectly. Yes, black folks are the people, but race doesn't matter is one of them, but that's not what I'm talking about. But that is true. That is very true. But it's something that they hint at themselves, right? That is another one too, Sister Letitia. Yes, that is. Y'all, I mean, they do say that, so I'm not saying y'all wrong. Oh, there we go, minute to tell you. We're Israel as well. I know y'all heard that one, right? We're Israel as well. So what we're going to find out today, and as I said, pay close attention to the nuances, because if you start reasoning and move past what they've done to the scriptures, because they did manipulate the text, right? And how do you know that they manipulated the text? Well, Easter is one of them. Instead of referring to Passover, right? Even the word church, right? Even the word Christian, right? All of these are Gentile terms. They are terminology of the Greeks, right? They have added to the text, right? Philosophy. And what they've added to the text is philosophical interpretations. So a lot of the things that we think of today and we process in our minds is through the lens of Greek philosophy. So what I'm going to present here today, and that's why I'm telling you all to pay close attention, because it is there if you reason. So we're going to get started. All right. So Niger or Niger, that's what they like to say, right? Niger or Niger, right? Really is nigga. He used the N-word. Hey, this is an educational platform. That's all. I'm just educating. Niger, nigger in Antioch. All right. So I'm going to show you where this is what was happening, right? There were niggers in Antioch. All right. Oh, you don't believe me? I know. There he go. He making it about race. But is it not about race? So before I do that, let me share the scripture. Y'all see where I'm starting at. All right. So this is Acts 13:1. Now there were in the church that was at Antioch certain prophets, prophets and teachers, as Barnabas and Simeon, that was called nigger. No, Jacoba, they were not called nigger. They were called Niger. Come on, you're being racial. Okay. And Lucius of Cyrene and Manaen, which had been brought up with Herod and the Tetrarch and Saul. All right. So Niger or nigger. Let's listen to the pronunciation, right?
Strong's G 3526. Niger.
I'm sure this is not new to most Israelites, but the viewing of the scriptures and how and the context of what was happening during the time changes. It changes, right? So let's listen to that one more time, because I didn't make it up. For you Gentiles out there who don't like me saying the N-word, well, we're all God's people. We're all Israel. No. If you are Israel, then you're what?
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
So if you claim to be an Israelite, come on now, you know I'm making some enemies today. If you claim to be an Israelite,
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
I'm just saying. That's what they call them. Well, Kobe, you know, they only called Simeon a nigger. Only Simeon was a nigger. That's what they're going to tell you, right? But in Antioch, there were prophets and teachers. So these were apostles. These were prophets and teachers. These were Israelites. One of them we know who was called Simeon. One of them we know who was called Simeon was what?
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
I didn't say it. Strong said it. Strong's was a nigger. All right. I'm going to show you something. I'm going to get to my teaching, but I want to show you something. Then we go on to Acts 11:26. And when he had found him, he brought him unto Antioch. So they brought him to what? Antioch. And it came to pass that a whole year they assembled themselves with the church. That's really the assembly. And taught much people. And the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Well, Jacoba, how are you tying them to being a nigger? They were obviously, Jacoba, called Christians. Yeah, okay, Jacoba, I give it to you that Simeon was called a nigger. Okay. Well, if Simeon's a nigger, then guess what? Barnabas a nigger. And if Lucius is a nigger, then they all niggers. I'm just saying. I'm reading the Bible. This is educational purposes. I'm just teaching from the Strong's Concordance, YouTube. I'm not being offensive because I'm one as well. But what is a nigger? Niger, of Latin origin, black, nigger, Niger, a what? A Christian. A Christian. Now, my question to you again is, why was Simeon described or referred to as black? Why was Simeon referred to as black? And Strong says that a nigger is a Christian. In Acts 11:26 says they all were called Christians. They all were called Christians. But Simeon was called a nigger. And a nigger's a Christian. Because they always knew we were Israelites. Right, Minister, tell you? They always knew we were Israelites. So let's get back. Nigger in Antioch. In Antioch, the city where the disciples of Yahusha were first labeled as Christians, here lies a truth that ties racial identity and spiritual mockery into a single moment of scripture. Acts 11:26 states, and the disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Not long after, Acts 13:1 identifies one of the prominent teachers in that same assembly as Simeon, that was called nigger. These verses are not isolated. They speak of the same community. They reveal a direct link between the term Christian and the label nigger, a link that is made undeniably clear when we examine what Strong's Concordance says. So as I showed you, according to Strong's, nigger or Inyip, right? of Latin origin, Niger, nigger, is a Christian. So a Christian is a nigger and a nigger is a Christian, right? Why? Because the apostles, the prophets, the teachers were black. Do you know why they call black folks nigger? Because we are the original believers who follow a black Messiah. We are the original niggers. We are black Christians. That's why a nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger. That's why Strong says a nigger is a Christian. Strong's does not say that Niger or nigger simply means black. It says nigger refers to a Christian. In other words, Niger or nigger and Christian are presented as equivalents in a concordance. They are the same. This is a linguistic and cultural clue preserved in plain sight. According to Strong's, to be a nigger was to be called a Christian. They were one and the same and applied interchangeably, and that changes everything. A Christian is a nigger and a nigger is a Christian. So when you call yourself a Christian, you're calling yourself a nigger or a Niger, whatever you want to refer to it as. If you want the French Niger, right? You could say Niger. I'm good with it. You want to say Niger? Yeah, I'm good with that. You want to say nigger? I'm definitely good with that. Because this is what they call us today. And you're going to understand how Christianity, look, I got to be honest. Christianity is the religion of the Antichrist. I'm sorry. It is. We were all in it. We all grew up in it. We all thought we were right. A nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger. Why is this so? It is because the first Christians were Israelites, black Ezra Alawi. Black Ezra Alawi. Let me repeat that. Black Ezra Alawi. That's black Israelites. Simeon called nigger was a black man. His name meant black in Latin, which is what nigger means, right? Because it comes from the same root. I showed you Strong's pronounce it as nigger, not Niger. And he was one of the key prophets and teachers in the Antioch assembly. Acts 13:1 lists him alongside Barnabas and Lucius of Cyrene, both associated with African regions. Both associated with African regions. So what were the prophets and the teachers who were Israelites called?
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
That's Strong. So if I'm going to get hit for it, you got to hit Strong's for it because I'm just referring to what's in Strong's. Lucius is identified as being from Cyrene, a city located in what is now modern-day Libya in North Africa. Cyrene was a well-known city in antiquity and had a large population of Jews who had settled there during the Hellenistic and Roman periods. Historical sources such as Josephus confirmed that Jews lived in Cyrene centuries before the time of Yahusha. In Acts 2:10 and Acts 6:9, Jews from Cyrene are mentioned as part of the wider Israelite community, showing their presence in Jerusalem and their involvement in early religious discussions. Given that Cyrene was located in Africa and that Simeon was called nigger, which is Latin for black, it is clear that black men played important roles in the early assembly. If Simeon was visibly black and Lucius was from an African region known for its dark-skinned inhabitants, then it is reasonable to conclude that both men were black Africans or African Israelites. Yes or no? Okay. Lucius was from Libya, North Africa. Simeon was an Israelite. Lucius was an Israelite. They both from Africa, apparently, because one was called nigger and he was black. Therefore, since Lucius was from North Africa, he had to be black because he's an Israelite. Therefore, he was a nigger as well. Why? Because he was black. And if Lucius was black and Simeon was black, then Barnabas was black. Barnabas, who is also listed among them, was a Levite from the island of Cyprus, according to Acts 4:36. Cyprus was inhabited by many Israelites who had been scattered. While the text does not directly describe Barnabas' skin color, it is likely that he shared a similar Israelite heritage. Given that Israelites historically lived in regions of Africa and the surrounding areas, and that he was associated closely with these African men, it is obvious that Barnabas was also a black man, a nigger. And that's why they call you niggers today. That's why they call us niggers today. Why? Because we are followers of the Messiah who happen to be African or black Africans. Why is this important? Why is color important? I'm going to show y'all why it's important. It's not about color, Yacoba. It's all about faith. Well, faith is what's important when it comes to salvation through Messiah, yes. But knowing who the people are and what they've gone through and why the world is in trouble today and why Donald Trump is doing what he's doing today is because he knows that we're niggers. We're black followers of the Messiah, of a black Messiah. Oh, yeah, don't get it twisted. I prove everything I say. Don't get it twisted. Therefore, the early assembly at Antioch was not only composed of Israelites, but of black Israelites and Africans who were filled with the Spirit and active in leadership. This confirms the presence and prominence of black Israelites in the early assemblies when Acts 11:26 tells us that the disciples were called Christians for the first time in Antioch. It is the same group that was being labeled. It is the same group that was being labeled. It's the same group with Simeon. Simeon, called Niger a nigger, was part of the group now identified by outsiders as Christians. So outsiders, Romans, Gentiles called the black Israelites Christians or nigger. That's why Strong shows you that nigger is a Christian. A Christian is a nigger. Why? Because they are black Israelites. The term Christian appears only 3 times in the Bible. Acts 11:26. The disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Acts 26:28. Almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. 1 Peter 4:16. If any man suffer as a Christian, let him not be ashamed. Let me read this to you in another way. The disciples were called niggers first in Antioch. Almost thou persuadest me to be a nigger. If any man suffer as a nigger, let him not be ashamed. Why? Because a nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger. Why? Because it was a derogatory term. Christian was a derogatory term, and obviously we know that nigger is a derogatory term because that's what they call us all throughout our life, our existence. All of these show that the term was an outsider label. In Acts 11:26, were called, that's what they say. Word called is from the Greek word chromatzo, meaning to be called or designated by others. Were called. They were first called Christians in Antioch. Chromatzo. were called, outsiders called us Christians. It was a derogatory term. I'm going to prove that Christian was a derogatory term. The verb krematisai, a form of krematazo, means to give someone a name or title. So they gave us a name or title. In this case, it shows that the name Christian was given to the believers by outsiders. What believers? Well, there was only at the time Israelite believers, and they were going to other places and giving them the gospel, the good news about the Messiah. So Christian was given to the believers by outsiders. It was not a noble term. It was a derogatory term, and I'm going to prove it. It was not a name they chose for themselves, but one that others called them. In 1 Peter 4:16, Peter says to not be ashamed of suffering as a Christian, suggesting that the term was stigmatized, right? That's why Peter said, do not be ashamed for suffering as a Christian. Why? Because a Christian is a nigger and a nigger is a Christian. The followers who were called Christians in the beginning were black Israelites. That's why Simeon was black. That's why Lucius was from North Africa. And by comparison, that Barnabas was also an Israelite, he had to be black as well and had to be an African as well. How you have Lucius being an African, Simeon being an African because he was called nigger, right? Therefore, Barnabas had to be one as well. The label Christian was originally derogatory, not a title that early believers gave themselves. They didn't call themselves that. They didn't call themselves Christians. The term Christian in Strong's Concordance is G5546 from the Greek Christianos, meaning a follower of Christ. But it is also noted as a label given by outsiders, not one chosen by the followers themselves. So they didn't call themselves Christian. Just as we didn't call ourselves niggas. The construction of the word includes the suffix "inos," a Greek Roman ending that often indicated political or social subordination. In Roman culture, someone called a Caesarianos was considered a lesser servant or agent of Caesar. A Christianos was someone mocked as a subordinate of a man Rome had executed as a criminal. Okay, let me repeat this so you could get the view of what's happening here. Christianos was someone mocked as a subordinate of a man Rome had executed as a criminal. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Let me go back. All right, let me go back up, family. I'm sorry. I thought I was sharing all of this. My bad. Let me go back up here. All right, let's go back up here. I don't know where I stopped sharing. I'm going to go way back up. All right. So, therefore, the early assembly at Antioch was not only composed of Israelites, but of black Israelites and Africans who were filled with the Spirit and active in leadership. This confirms the presence and prominence of black Israelites in the early assemblies. When Acts 11:26 tells us that the disciples were called Christians for the first time in Antioch, it is the same group that was being labeled. Simeon, called nigger, was part of the group now identified by outsiders as Christians. The term Christian appears only 3 times in the Bible. Acts 11:26. The disciples were called Christians first in Antioch. Acts 26:28. Almost thou persuadest me to be a Christian. 1 Peter 4:16. If any man suffer as a Christian, let him be ashamed. So I'm going to reread this in my way. The disciples were first called niggers first in Antioch. Almost thou persuadest me to be a nigger. If any man suffer as a nigger, let him be ashamed. Why? Why do I say it that way? Because according to Strong's, a nigger is a Christian. But yet we know that nigger is the Latin form that means black, which identifies, as we know today, black Africans, black people from Africa. Even today, we're called niggers as a derogatory term. Christian as well was used as a derogatory term. So all of these show that the term was an outsider label. In Acts 11:26, word called is from the Greek word chromatizo, meaning to be called or designated by others. The verb chrematizai, a form of chromatizo or chromatizo, means to give someone a name or title. In this case, it shows that the name Christian was given to the believers by outsiders. It was not a name they chose for themselves, but one that others called them. So just like us, we never called ourselves niggers, right? They called us niggers. Same thing with the followers of the Messiah. They call us niggers. Why? Because niggers meant black. Niggers meant black. But black, quote unquote, niggers also means Christian. Why? Because the early Christians, the only Christians there were initially, were followers of the Messiah who were black African Israelites or Israelite. So in 1 Peter 4:16, Peter says to not be ashamed for suffering as a Christian, suggesting the term was stigmatized. So Christian was a stigmatization. The label Christian was originally derogatory, not a title the early believers gave themselves. The term Christian in Strong's is G5546 from the Greek Christianos, meaning a follower of Christ. But it is also noted as a label given by outsiders, not one chosen by the followers themselves. The construction of the word includes the suffix Ianos, a Greek Roman ending that often indicated political or social subordination. In Roman culture, someone called a Caesarianos was considered a lesser servant or agent of Caesar. A Christianos was someone mocked as subordinate of a man Rome had executed as a criminal. To Romanize, Yeshua was no divine figure. To Roman eyes, Yeshua was no divine figure. He was a crucified rebel. His followers, especially when they were poor, non-citizens, or black, were seen as fools, heretics, and enemies of the state. When the Gentile population of Antioch called these men Christians, they were not honoring them, they were ridiculing them. They were marking them out as a cult of dark-skinned followers of a condemned man. Now, we know this to be true, right? Because we know for a fact that they persecuted us and we had to run away. And then after the Messiah died, after they conquered in 70 AD, we were exiled. Some went into captivity, some went into slavery, and we ran here, we ran there, and they called us what? Black followers of a black Messiah. They called us Christianos or Christians, but a nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger because a Christian is a black Israelite. I'm not talking about the etymology of the word or the lexicon and talking about Niger based upon the lexicon is the same as Christian. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying the use of the terms were used to identify the same people. A nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger. To Romanize, Yeshua was no divine figure. He was a crucified rebel. That's what they saw the Messiah as a rebel. And we were followers, according to their belief and understanding, of a cult. Because the only confirmed belief or religion at that time was paganism and what they call Judaism, run by Herod. So his followers, especially when they were poor, non-citizens, or black, were seen as fools, heretics, and enemies of the state. When the Gentile population of Antioch called these men Christians, it was derogatory. They were not honoring them. They were ridiculing them. They were marking them out as a cult of dark-skinned followers of a condemned man. That's why they said Simeon, who was called nigger. Simeon was dark skinned. But yet we see Lucius was also from Africa. He was from North Africa, and they were black folks. Maybe he wasn't as dark as Simeon, but he was a black nigga. And if Simeon was a nigga and Lucius was a nigga, black African, then Barnabas was too, because he was an Israelite. Now we return to the Strong's definition, Niger or nigger, however you want to pronounce it, Niger. Nigger, a Christian. If Christian was a word used to mock the faith of the believers, and nigger was a racial label used to mark their skin, and if both terms refer to the same people, then the conclusion is unavoidable. When the world first called the disciples Christians, they were in fact calling them niggers, because a nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger. The terms were synonymous, both in tone and in target. Because Christians were black Israelites, and it became synonymous with the term Christian, because at that time, they were black. The Christians were black. There were no white Christians. There was no such thing as a quote-unquote white Christian. Christian carried the weight of religious mockery. Nigger carried the weight of racial contempt. Combined, they were a double insult aimed at black Israelites who followed a black Messiah. They always knew we were Israelites. This connection helps explain the later evolution of the word Niger, or nigger into nigger. So this explains nigger into Nigger. In Latin, Niger meant black, or nigger meant black. In French, it became nigre. In Spanish and English, it became negro, and eventually turned into nigger, one of the most dehumanizing slurs in history. The root of that slur lies right there in Acts 13:1. It was first used to describe a man who believed in the Messiah, a black man, mind you, who believed in the Messiah. It was tied to his race and his faith. And when that same group was called Christians, it was not a compliment. It was a continuation of the same ridicule. This is what was happening. This is the dynamic that we're seeing in the Bible. This is the dynamic that you don't see in church. This is the dynamic that Christians don't want to teach you. That you were hated, just like you hated today. Let me ask you a question before I continue, family. Are niggas hated today? Yes or no? Are niggas hated today? Black folks, Negroes, whatever you want to call us, African Americans, foundational black Americans. Nothing has changed. The early followers of Yahusha never called themselves Christians. They identified as Israelites, Israelite, saints, chosen, believers, followers of the way. They never called themselves Christians. They were Torah-keeping men and women, many of them black. They always knew we were Israelites. And deeply connected to the prophetic tradition of Israel. The title Christian came from outsiders, just like the title nigger. And Strong's Concordance confirms this by linking them directly. A nigger, a Christian. The same people, the same assembly, the same insult, you Christians, as a group. Niggers. So when the scripture says the disciples were first called Christians in Antioch, and when it names Simeon as nigger, it is documenting not just a moment in Israelite believers' history, but a moment of racial and religious mockery. It is telling us that the earliest believers were identified by outsiders as black people who followed a condemned man. That's what they were calling us. They were mocked as niggers, and they were mocked as Christians. According to Strong's, those terms meant the same thing. The world saw no difference between the two. They were first called Christians, but in truth, they were first called niggers. That is how the world saw black Israelites who followed a black Messiah, and that is the identity history has tried to erase. To confirm this understanding, we can look at the social state of Jerusalem and Rome at the time by noting the atrocities that occurred against the Israelite after the Messiah ascended to heaven. Below is historical and traditional accounts of the deaths of the apostles that show that there is no way that the use of the word Christian was ever notable and honorable, but a derogatory name. Below is historical and traditional accounts of the deaths of the apostles that show that there is no way that the use of the word Christian was ever notable and honorable, but a derogatory name. 1, Peter, Simon Peter, ministry, preached in Jerusalem, then traveled to Rome. Death, crucified upside down, where? In Rome, under Emperor Nero around 64 to 68 AD. He requested to be crucified upside down, feeling unworthy to die like Yahusha. So how were they first called Christians in Antioch? And Antioch was a Roman province. It was a Roman city in Asia, in Syria. How was them saying, oh, these are the Christians, these are the men of God? No, it was mockery. And we could see that by what happened to the apostles. Number 2, James of Zebedee, ministry stayed in Jerusalem. Death, beheaded by King Herod Agrippa the first around 44 AD. Acts 12, 1-2. He was first apostolic martyr. 3, John, the brother of James, ministry, preached in Asia Minor, especially Ephesus, traditionally attributed to writing the Gospel of John, 3 epistles, and Revelation. Death, only apostle believed to have died a natural death, possibly around 100 AD. According to tradition, he survived being boiled in oil. But yet, they want us to believe they were first called Christians in Antioch and that it was a good thing. But yet, they got persecuted. They got deleted. Number 4, Andrew, brother of Peter, ministry, preached in Cynthia, Greece, and possibly Ethiopia. Death, crucified on an X-shaped cross in Patras, Greece. He's said to have preached for 2 days while dying. But they want us to believe Christian was a notable term. They were first called Christians in Antioch. That's how they make you feel, right? When you're in church. They were first called Christians in Antioch. No, it was a derogatory term. Number 5, Philip, ministry, preached in Phrygia, modern day Turkey. Death, crucified on hanging Hierapolis. Some say he was martyred by being impaled with iron hooks. Number 6, Bartholomew, possibly Nathaniel, ministry, preached in India, Armenia, and Arabia, flayed alive and beheaded in Armenia. But we supposed to believe that they were first called Christians. That's a notable term. No. Number 7, Matthew, Levi, the tax collector, ministry, preached in Ethiopia and possibly Persia. Accounts vary. Some say he was stabbed to death in Ethiopia or martyred in Persia. Now, mind you, Ethiopia, could have just meant Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, upper and lower Ethiopia. You know what I'm saying? Y'all know, y'all saw my stuff. So, number 8, Thomas Didymus, ministry, priest in Parthia, Persia, and India. Death, speared to death in Malapur, India. Number 9, James, son of Alphaeus, ministry, often confused with James the Just, the brother of Yahusha. Tradition says he was stoned or clubbed to death in Jerusalem. Number 10, Thaddeus, Jude, son of James, ministry, priest in Syria, Mesopotamia. Death, killed with arrows or a club in Persia. Number 11, Simon the Zealot, ministry, priest in Persia and possibly North Africa or Britain. Death, Various accounts say crucified, sawn in half, or killed with Thaddeus in Persia. Number 12, Matthias replaced Judas Iscariot. Ministry, priest in Cappadocia and the Caspian Sea region. Death, martyred, possibly stoned and beheaded in Jerusalem or Ethiopia. 13, Paul, apostle to the Gentiles. Ministry, traveled through Asia Minor, Greece, Rome, possibly Spain, wrote many New Testament epistles. What? Death, beheaded in Rome under Nero around 67 AD. But we're supposed to believe they went to Antioch, a Roman city, and they were like, oh, look at the nice little Christians. No, it was a derogatory term. That's why a nigger is a derogatory term. And a nigger is a Christian and a Christian is a nigger. That's why Strong says that Niger or nigger is a Christian. I'm almost done, fam. The term Christian could not have been a noble or honorable title when it was first used, because the entire message from the Messiah warned that his followers would be hated, persecuted, and treated like sheep sent to the slaughter. In Matthew 10:16, Yahusha said, behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, making it clear that suffering, not esteem, awaited his disciples. Same thing with you all. Same thing with me. We are sheep amongst wolves. Let me ask you something, family. Yes or no? Are we not sheep among wolves? Are we not sheared every day by these people? Are they not passing DEI, anti-DEI laws, anti-CRT laws, anti-history laws, anything that had to do with niggas? Are they not doing these things? Are they not threatening to delete us? Are they not threatening to deport us? Are we not counted as sheep among wolves? This is the reality. Gentiles, you want to be a Christian? You want to be sheared? You want to give up your supremacist position? Behold, I send you forth as sheep in the midst of wolves, making it clear that suffering, not esteem, awaited his disciples. So how, when they went to Antioch, it was all hugs, love, and kisses? How, when they went to a Roman city in Antioch, it was, oh, look at the little Christians with their good little message. Oh, they're Christians. We first call them Christians in Antioch. No, they said niggas. That's what they said, niggas. You see them niggas? You see them black folks? You see them black Israelites? You see them black followers of a black Messiah? This is exactly what happened. As history shows, the apostles were hunted, tortured, and killed for their faith. From crucifixion and beheading to flaying and stoning, their deaths confirm that being labeled a Christian in that time meant being marked for rejection, not honor. And the other derogatory term used was nigger, as we have seen. Another derogatory term carried throughout the centuries up to the current time. So we even call niggas today. That's why I don't get offended being called a nigga. I take it with pride today. Because, you know, back then it was tied to us being slaves. But now it's tied to us being the chosen people. That's why they don't want to call you that no more. Because they know history coming out. Why do you think Trump is trying to hide all the historical documents and all the historical texts, stopping people from teaching history and slavery and all this stuff? Why? Because let me stop before I get in trouble. Acts 14:22 says we must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of God. We must through much tribulation enter into the kingdom of God. Is that not what we have been going through? Do you see the Gentiles going through much tribulation? I don't think so. I mean, they have their problems, but I'm just saying. In Acts 9:16 records Yahusha saying to Paul, for I will show him how great things he must suffer for my name's sake. Oh, it is a life of suffering. It is a life of ridicule. It is a life of persecution. When Rome took over Christianity, it renamed everything. Oh, yes. These verses confirm that the path of the early believers was not marked by power or prestige, but by suffering and rejection. The title Christian was not born from a noble status, but from public scorn aimed at Israelites or Israelite who followed Yahusha. The very foundation of their walk was tribulation, not honor. Over time, Christianity has rebranded this identity into something admired and socially accepted. But the scriptures and history reveal that the original so-called Christians were Israelites who were hated, oppressed, and killed for their faith. Their experience was defined by humility and persecution, not by dignity in the eyes of the world. That's why Christian was not a noble term. It was ridicule. The Apostle John, though often portrayed today as a revered figure in the church tradition, was in fact ridiculed, persecuted, and imprisoned for his faith. According to early historical accounts, John was brought before Roman authorities and subjected to brutal punishment, including being cast into a vat of boiling oil, which he miraculously survived. But yet they want us to believe that the Christian terminology or title was a notable one, and it was not, obviously. They hated us then, and they hate us now. Yeshua said they hated me without cause. Same thing with his followers and his people. They hate us without cause. We be like, what did we do to y'all? Nothing. We just don't like niggas. Rather than being honored, he was then exiled to the land of Patmos, a barren prison colony where he lived in isolation. It was there as a prisoner that he received the visions recorded in the book of Revelation. His treatment reflects the same pattern of humiliation and suffering that all the apostles endured. This stands in stark contrast to how modern Christianity glorifies his image, forgetting that he, like the others, was despised and rejected for being Israelite who followed Yahusha. Come on now, let's be honest. We know the scriptures. They were despised and rejected, just like their Messiah, our Messiah, was despised and rejected. What did the Most High say? You will be hated of all men for my name's sake. So don't tell me Christian was a notable title or an honorable title. It was not. It was a byword. It was ridicule. Not until Constantine, the so-called Christian Israelite, stopped being persecuted. During the time of the apostles going to Antioch, no one was saying these are the Christians in a positive light. No one was saying these are the Christians in a positive light. No, it was a negative term. And that's why Niger or nigger, as Strong's pronounce it, because Strong's pronounce it now. YouTube Strong's pronounce it as nigger. I'm just talking about what Strong says. Strong's pronounce it as nigger, and nigger was a derogatory term, and a nigger is a Christian, and a Christian is a nigger, and that's why it was a negative term, because we were hated by all nations. All of this confirmed that the term was not positive, but was a racial slur by the Romans, like Niger or nigger is today. It is the same thing. Ain't nothing new under the sun. Our people were called nigger back then. Our people called nigger today. By the Romans, mind you. Who called us niggers first? Descendants of the Roman Empire. Western Europeans, the ones who enslaved us, who followed the authority of the Pope, signing the dumb diverses. And now we apparently have a Pope in office who's supposed to have some lineage in him too of an Nigger. I'm just saying. I don't even know what to make of that one. Interesting times we're living in. The Constantine Creed marked a major turning point that overturned the true message of the gospel and institutionalized a hatred for anything connected to Hebrew Israelite or Israelite. Instead of preserving the faith taught by Yahusha and his apostles, the Roman church system, beginning with Constantine, removed the Israelite identity from the gospel and replaced it with Roman customs and doctrine. Although these leaders claimed to believe in the Messiah, they actively persecuted the very people who were his original followers, Black Israelite believers. The Council of Nicaea, 325 AD, backed by Constantine, introduced laws that rejected the Hebrew roots of the faith. They enforced creeds that included worshiping on Sunday instead of the seventh-day Sabbath, which is Saturday, forbidding observance of Passover in favor of Easter, a Roman festival, and rejecting all feast days commanded in the Torah. They also banned the use of Hebrew names and language in worship. These laws made it illegal to follow the same practices Yahusha and his disciples upheld and targeted the true Christian Israelites who continued to keep the commandments and testimonies of the Messiah. The Constantine Creed did not protect the gospel. It hijacked it, stripped it of its Israelite foundation, and used it to justify persecution of Yahusha's true followers. How slick can you be? They took our own Bible, our own scrolls, our own documents, put a little Greek philosophy in it, and used it against us. It was illegal to follow the feast days. You can only follow Roman days. It was illegal to follow the Hebrew Israelite laws. You had to follow Roman laws. It was illegal to worship on the Sabbath. You had to worship on a Sunday. But you want me to believe that they were first called Christians in Antioch like it's a positive thing. It couldn't have been. Because even way after the Messiah rose, they still persecuted us. They still hated us. And let's not even talk about the Inquisition. Conclusion. Both Christian and nigger were not titles of honor, but terms of mockery aimed at the same people, Black Israelite followers of the Messiah. These names were not applied to Gentile converts, but to the original disciples, who were Israelites living under Roman oppression. The term Christian was given by outsiders in scorn, while nigger identified them by their race, reinforcing both religious and racial contempt. These labels revealed how the world viewed the early assembly, a despised group of Black believers who followed a crucified man. This mockery did not stop in the first century. The term nigger Niger evolved into nigger and continued to be used throughout history by the same Roman Christian systems. Whether Catholic or Protestant, that persecuted and enslaved Israelite under the banner of Christianity. Was not Christianity our enslavers? Yes or no? Were not the Catholics our enslavers? Yes or no? Were not the Protestant Christians our enslavers? Yes or no? Are not the right-wing evangelical Christians today our persecutors? Yes or no? Do they all still call us niggers? Yes or no? Was nigger a Christian and a Christian a nigger? Yes. They figured they could replace us. The terms Christian and nigger, when rightly understood, are evidence of the long-standing rejection and targeting of true Israel by the world and its religious powers. Now, think about this for a second. As much as they hate us, right? Because we Black, because we African, because we Israelite, because we niggers, right? As much as they hate us, do they not know that we are descendants of a Black Messiah? And this is why the Most High said, how can you hate your brother who you have seen and love me who you have not seen? Oh, yeah, they're in trouble. Gentiles in trouble. I'll be watching this one Gentile. He be on TikTok. At least he gets it. He gets it. At least as far right now, they always end up switching up. But he gets it. He know they're going into captivity. He say he praying for him and his family because he know they're going into captivity. The verse that says, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. Now, in Christianity, that had no context, right? It just was generic for everybody, right? You shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. But this verse, you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free, John 8:32, is not a general statement for the entire world, but a promise spoken directly to the Israelite. In context, Yahusha was speaking to those who were of Abraham's seed and under covenant. This truth is not just spiritual, it is national, historical, and covenantal. Black Israelites remain in captivity till this day because they do not know who they are or the laws they are bound to keep. They have been stripped of their identity, heritage, and covenant, and as a result, continue to suffer under the curses of Deuteronomy 28. The truth that will make them free is the knowledge of their identity as Yahuwah's chosen people and the need to return to his commandments. Only by walking in this truth can they be delivered physically, spiritually, and nationally from the bondage that has held them for centuries. When you rightly divide the word of truth, you will understand that it's all about us. And when I say it's all about us, it's all about our fall. It's all about our persecution. It's all about our deletions by the Gentile nations. It's all about supersessionism, Gentiles trying to replace us. It's all about humiliation. It's all about injustice. It's all about slavery. Tell me I'm wrong. And if you tell me I'm wrong, prove it. Well, Jacob, it's all about Christ. Well, yes, he's the focus. He's the center. He's life. He's all we need. But as I showed you in my teachings on how to know Yahuwah, hereby we know him that we keep his commandments. Well, there's a certain group of people who signed the contract that is called the covenant, that if you obey my laws and do these, you shall be blessed. But if you disobey, you're going to be cursed. So obviously, in order for the Israelite around the world who forgot who they are and their heritage to line up with the word of Yahuwah and obey the contract, they got to know who they are. Well, Jacob, you know that the law don't save. No, Yeshua saves. But if you want to be known of him, you must keep his commandments. Well, Lord, why did you put us away? Well, did we not prophesy in your name? And in your name cast out devils, and in your name do many wonderful works. And he's going to say, I never knew you, ye workers of iniquity, which means you were lawless. So it don't have to do with the fact that the law can't save. Yeshua saves. But if you want to know him, you must fellowship in his suffering. If you want to know him, you must obey his laws. How do we know him? This is how we know him. We keep his commandments. Everybody not going to like this teaching because it's too ethnic centric. But let's not get it twisted. What's happening today is reminiscent of what happened in the past. What Trump is doing today is what they did during the time of the Inquisition. While people are buying acres and acres of land and telling you settle down in Babylon, Trump is coming for you. He told you he coming. He passed executive orders that says he's coming to help secure the black community. He coming to help black folks because black folks in so much trouble and so much crime. So he coming, but yet the fact that he says he's coming to help black folks in the black community, but yet he removes any protection of that black community by allowing the po-po do whatever they want without being taken into custody, tells you he got plans for y'all, for us. It boggles my mind when I see the laws being passed by executive order. And now people quiet. It boggles my mind when after 2019, just like we told y'all, all hell broke loose. Why? Because the devil knows he got a short time. Niggas then woke up. We told y'all that. Why the devil know he got a short time? Because niggas know who they are. It boggles my mind, the normalcy bias. You can't wake people up from a deep sleep. I'm like, do you really have to have ICE coming knocking on your door and pulling you out by gunpoint and putting you in some vans and putting you in concentration camps to finally realize maybe Yacoba was right? Maybe they got it in for us. Maybe they're trying to push us out. I'm just saying. They never liked you. They're never going to like you. Why? Because they want what you got. They want your African land. That's why they hate Ibrahim. They want your gold and your silver. They want your talents. They want your bushy wool-like hair. They want your melanated skin, stuff they don't have. They're jealous. They're mad. They want your inheritance. Don't get it twisted. I ain't trying to cause no division. I'm just telling the truth. I don't know about that Mudfoot. I don't even know what that means. Don't call me Mudfoot. I don't know what the heck that means. We put out steps or a checklist for what you should be doing in these days to be prepared. Y'all would do yourself a good service if you go read it. Keep allowing normalcy bias to keep you from preparing. And don't blame me because you've been warned. As a matter of fact, I'm going to tap myself on the shoulder again. I've been right, and I'm right again. And if you can't see that the niggas be in trouble, if you think buying acres and acres of land gonna save you in a nation that has always taken everything you've gotten, bombed you, bulldozed you, burned down your towns. If you think buying land gonna save you here in America, and y'all be mad about people helping you buy land on the continent and lying on people, but I ain't gonna even get into that. You go ahead and stay. You go ahead and build your Goshen in Babylon and Egypt. You go ahead while Egyptians beating your tail because Moses ain't coming to help you this time. The Egyptians are coming for you And I'm not going to be burying them in the sand to help you because you decide you're not going to prepare. I'm not comparing myself to Moses, but I'm just saying any one of us. Well, you cool, but that's why I don't listen to you no more because you always negative, blah, 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 blah. Our life has been negative. Our existence has been negative. We've been persecuted for 2,000 years. I got you. Like, we've been persecuted for 2,000 years. The black Hebrew Israelites. The black Hebrew Israelites. We've been persecuted for over 2,000 years.
Strong's G 3526. Niger. Niger.
We've been persecuted for over 2,000 years. We've been known as niggers for over 2,000 years. We've been known as Christians for over 2,000 years. And we at the end. You think Trump don't know that we woke up? Why you think he's targeting us? Oh, well, you know, I was watching CNN and I saw this. They were interviewing these 3 black supporters of Trump. And they asked them, would you change your vote today? Do you think Trump is doing a good job? Would you take your vote back? You know them. You know what them?
Strong's G 3526. Niger.
Do you know what they
Niger.
said? Oh, I think he's doing a good job. I'd vote for him again. Can you believe that? The dude then destroyed the economy, removed DEI, removing any association with slavery in our history, in the History Museum, removing black military names from off of their websites who you know did something for this nation. This dude is removing everything, dealing with niggas. And they say they're still gonna vote for him, and they will vote for him again. Is you stupid? That's why we in the situation we in now. Traitors, raccoons. Well, you know, we're all supposed to love each other. We're supposed to be Christian. You know, Trump is a great guy because he's helping us. Yeah, he's helping us to the grave. You about to be unemployed. You're about to be homeless. You're about to be without food. You're about to be thrown in concentration camps. You're about to be sent to other nations. I don't understand some of our people. Like I told y'all, fam, I got a lot to do. The time is short. I'm wrapping it up. Trying to get done what I got to do, get the message out. Hope y'all enjoyed this. Like, share, and subscribe. You know, if you like it. You can also support us by becoming a Patreon member. You can give Cash App, $TOTW7101. Hopefully this video stays up. If it doesn't stay up, y'all could go over to Rumble. I mean, I don't see why I didn't break any rules. I'm just talking about Strong's Concordance. But you can always go to Rumble. I'm streaming live over there too if something happens. So, you know, just go ahead and like, share, and subscribe. And also you can support us by buying Minister Teyu's book. They always knew we were Israelites, which is very important because once again, that book goes and proved that they knew who we were and they knew that the apostles were black. And if you want to know what True Jerusalem is, go get my book, True Jerusalem. I really hate when people come and do drive-bys. Well, Jacoby, you're wrong. Okay, well, bring your proof. I will destroy anybody who comes against me. I've been studying this stuff for years, you know. But you can believe what you want. I don't have a problem with you believing what you want. So love y'all, family, with the love of the Messiah. Peace and blessings, Israel. Your captivity is ending. Well, family, the wait is over. The moment has arrived where truth emerges triumphant from the shadows of history. Introducing the true Jerusalem, the lost kingdoms of the Israelites, the groundbreaking work by me, Jacoby Vale, a journey into the past that reshapes the future. I cut through centuries of misconceptions with piercing clarity. This book delivers a compelling case packed with evidence that commands attention and gonna get some respect. Come with me for a second, family, and discover how these thrilling civilizations flourished, protected by towering highlands and sustained by advanced engineering. Some have asked, where is Jerusalem? Is it the land in the Middle East? I say no. It is in the highlands of Ethiopia. With hours of groundbreaking research, this book brings in a new revelation, and it will transform your understanding of African history and its connections to the ancient world. It's going to remove from your mind the conditioning by the Romans of what has really happened to our past. Come with me, family, to the Ethiopian highlands and find out why this is our land, why things have been hidden and obfuscated for centuries. We are royalty, children of the Most High. What kind of land do you expect us to have? Dried up dirt in the Middle East, or land flowing with rivers? A land full of beautiful animals flowing with milk and honey. Don't miss out on this monumental unveiling. Grab your copy today and stand on the side of truth. Visit Amazon.com or www.tailministries.com to purchase your book and join Jacoby Vale's teachings on Tail Ministries. Family, your journey to a hidden history has now begun. So family, get your copy of True Jerusalem, the Lost Kingdoms of the Israelites today. Journey to the heart of Africa, where history and legend converge to reveal the forgotten kingdoms of the Israelites and the true location of Jerusalem.